Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7. We're at episode number 1592 and it's a Resistance briefing today on Signal from Sector 6. Now, way back when we talked about the fact that these episodes had been announced and that title had been announced, I mentioned that there was a previous Sector 6 mention, and it doesn't even matter because this has nothing to do with it after all, so it is an entirely brand new thing. And I should tell you, of course, this is a spoiler-filled look at Signal from Sector 6, so if you haven't seen the episode and don't want it spoiled for you, then save this show for a later date. Otherwise, if you're good with me diving in, then let's do it right here. So, here's the deal. It's, I'll say, as far as episodes where, you know, if you're after the mythology, if you're after what's going on with the First Order and the Resistance, then this one is a little bit light in that regard, but it is setting something up in that regard. That seems to be for sure. I'll say not necessarily intentionally so either. So, you know, here is the plot in brief. What happens is, or at least, the thing you need to know is that a person is rescued off a ship, and it seems like that person is just part of the crew, and the crew was attacked by pirates, but it turns out that this is actually one of the pirates. Surprise, surprise. And we actually saw this pirate, whose name is Sonara, back in the Triple Dark episode. That's the episode where pirates used a particular event that happens on Castellon as cover for attack on the Colossus refueling platform. Anyway, so this cargo ship was hit by pirates, and the pirates didn't actually do very well. There were a couple of ships that are actually, laying dead in the water, as it were, and yeah. The reason why, though, is what ultimately this episode is about, because it's almost like it should have been a Halloween episode, quite honestly, with all of the, crazy, like, zing noises, like the horror music soundtrack kind of things, and so forth, because as Poe and Kaz get on this ship and are looking around, they hear, all these creaks and rumbles and huge roars from God knows where in the ship, and all the power is out. And at one point, Kaz says, what do you think it is? And Poe's answer is, I don't know, Rathtar, Gundark, Reek. And that in itself is kind of awesome because he's actually mentioned creatures from each trilogy, right? Rathtar's, of course, from The Force Awakens. Gundarks were referenced by Han Solo in The Empire Strikes Back. And the Reek is one of the creatures in the Geonosian arena in Star Wars Attack of the Clones. So, well done on that coverage for sure. And speaking of creatures, it turns out that we get a lot of comedy with a bunch of Kowakian monkey lizards. That seems to be what was being transported on the ship, and they are everywhere. There's a whole bunch of them, and they're causing all kinds of trouble attacking Finn. Wow, where did I pull that one from? Attacking Poe and Kaz and BB-8 and CB-23, who is the other droid along for the ride. And we get a lot of stuff from Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron talking about how much he hates monkeys, which is fantastic. It is great fun, him going, I hate monkeys. Oh, I really hate monkeys. And that in itself is probably worth the cost of admission on this episode, just to hear Oscar Isaac talk on multiple occasions about how much he hates monkeys. And if he hates those Kowakian monkey lizards, then oh man, when the giant Kowakian monkey lizard, I mean, I don't know what else this thing is, but it's basically a massive Kowakian, oh god. It's just enormous. It's ridiculous, and yeah, it also can't turn any at all. Anytime it's running in a straight line, it just crashes into the sidewall when it's trying to make a turn. Good for Poe and Kaz as they're trying to escape from this thing, but they happen to rescue somebody who they think was a member of the crew who was hiding in a cargo container, and it turns out that it's this person, Sonara, who was one of the pirates that was working for that other pirate leader, Kragan, who is working with Captain Phasma and Commander Pyre and Major Vonrag in, trying to make the Colossus refueling platform fall under the influence of the First Order. So unwittingly, Kaz and Poe, with their gesture of goodwill, end up getting Sonara registered as a regular person on the Colossus, and so now that she's in touch with Kragan, her boss, they're going to figure out how they can play this to their advantage now that they have a person on the inside, as it were. And so that's where the whole thing about setting something up with the First Order and their move against the Colossus, that's where that whole thing plays in. There's also, a neat little training mission thing with Poe. Poe arrives because basically he says he wants to tell Kaz that he's doing a good job, and ostensibly that's it, but he also gives him a little bit of piloting time in an X-Wing and trains him how to do a maneuver, which ultimately, of course, comes in handy when pirates end up taking a second shot at that cargo freighter and they ended up getting dusted and so on and so forth. So anyway, that's really kind of all you need to know about Signal from Sector 6. It's a nice reappearance of Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron, and I think that's probably one of the things that, when TV shows like Resistance or Rebels before it or the Clone Wars, when they have these major movie star castings, it's kind of unusual to have them for more than one episode or two episodes. I mean, thinking back to, say, for example, Star Wars Rebels, they got Forrest Whitaker in as Saw Gerrera, but he was only there for 2 episodes in that one season, and then he did show up another time. But they did get Genevieve O'Reilly to do Mon Mothma in a couple episodes. But it seems like Oscar Isaac's appearance in Star Wars Resistance is already more significant in terms of how much time has been dedicated to him and his character so far in this first season. So, unless that's just their way of trying to, make sure that everybody gets hooked because, hey, Oscar Isaac is actually more involved in this thing, or if it's possibly the way that we're going to see some of these animation shows go, where they're actually going to get some of the movie stars involved more regularly. Personally, I would like to see something like that. I think that would be a really cool way to approach these things. I'd love to know what you think, if you think that we should be doing what we can, or they should be doing what they can to get the actual movie stars in as voices on these shows more often, or if you think that it's better that they're developing these shows as just standalone in the sense that it really should be focused on the characters that we have in the show, and that any of these guest appearances should really be only very limited guest appearances. Let me know what you think wherever you happen to be catching this show. And that is going to do it for our Resistance briefing on Signal from Sector 6. And yeah, that'll do it for this show too. So I hope you'll consider subscribing to the podcast if you're not already. And I hope you'll consider supporting the show and what I'm doing for you on a daily basis at patreon.com/SW7X7. For now, though, it just remains for me to say thank you again so much for joining me for this episode. And may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2018 Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.